My name is Rodney Duck, and I am filling in for the great Phyllis Jones at KISS 103.1 Community Connections. Miss Phyllis Jones is off an assignment right now. She's working with the NAACP to do her state education fairs type stuff. You know, she's a state education woman, and she does so much throughout the state. She does a wonderful job, and every now and then she has to get away to do other things, but she put me in charge, and I am the elder. I'm the elder in charge. It's kind of like that elder child that you leave in charge of the house and they take their authority too far. Today I'm going to take my authority too far, Miss Phyllis Jones. You are not going to want me to be in charge of your house anymore. So today our show is going to be a very wonderful show. It's going to be a very interesting show, and the show is going to talk about how to cultivate a child in today's society. That's very important because the word cultivation is a word that can be used for many different things. How to cultivate a child. What is the word cultivation? Cultivation means to care for, to nurture, to love, to grow. And we need to figure out how to cultivate those fertile minds of the child that we're with. So I have several guests with us today. Several guests from all different backgrounds to talk about different things that's going on within their organization and also within the community at large. So one of the people that I brought here today to speak with us about her organization and about the kids that she works with is a young lady by the name of Miss Dory Collins. She is the unincluded president in Temple, Texas, and she does a lot of phenomenal stuff with that organization. I am one of the mentors that work with the youth. Thank you for being here at KISS Community Connections.
Thank you, Rodney, for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to be here and to share some of the experiences that I have had over the years. Yes, I am the president of Unincluded. I'm also the director of the programming, our daily programming. We serve the underserved youth. Most people would call our community and our youth marginalized, and that just means that our kids do not have access to the resources that many other children have access to. And so that is what my mission is. My purpose is to give them access to things, to open up their minds and understand that their world is much bigger than what they see every day.
Wow, I like that, Miss Collins. I'm sorry, this is Miss Dory Collins. Let me get it right, Miss Dory Collins. You know, I'm a little nervous my first time being the introvert-y, not the introvert-y. So, hey, Miss Collins, this is something interesting. Metacognition.
Yes.
How do we ensure that our children are functioning through metacognition, and what is metacognition?
So metacognition simply is thinking about your thinking. There are adults who do not practice metacognition, and it is very important for us as human beings to learn how to function with metacognition. That way we know we have a purpose for what it is that we do. Our children many times are on automatic, and video games does not help this. One thing that we can do to ensure that our children are working and functioning with metacognition is to ask questions constantly. Why did you do that? Let's think about that. Let's have a conversation as to why you took the steps that you took. Was that a smart decision? What could you do next time? This fosters their brain to begin to function with metacognition. And that just ensures that they work in safety and they consider everything around them and how their actions affect themselves and those around them.
Wow, that's very, very powerful. Which leads to the next thing is, how do we foster growth in emotional strength? How do we keep our kids from acting out? Does the metacognition kind of work with that?
Absolutely. So with the Unincluded, I have been doing trainings with our parents, and it's based in conscious discipline. It's a program that is built around brain research. And what I have learned with brain research is that we all function as a pattern. Our brain grows with a pattern, and what we need to learn how to do is tap into the knowledge that we know about how our brain develops. With trying to help our children grow emotionally, we need to help them to get their brains from what we call the fight or flight state to the safety state. We start out in the fight and flight state whenever we're dealing with any situation that we're unfamiliar with. There are different things that you can do with your children, including breathing, that will help them get to the executive state where they can actually use metacognition. We cannot use metacognition if we feel like we are always in a survival state. And the children that I work with unincluded, many times are living always in that survival state, and so they're not able to get to that point to where they can really think about what is a healthy choice, what is the best step for them to make a wise decision in their lives.
So conscious discipline. Can you elaborate a little bit more, because that
Yes.
it's interesting. That's something that I haven't even heard of myself.
Conscious discipline is exactly what it says. It's conscious discipline. You're using what you know about the brain development to help your children to better regulate themselves. One of the biggest key to conscious discipline is simple. It's breathing. What I have learned to do, or what our kids have learned to do, is to breathe, to get themselves from that survival state to the executive state, and then they can make a clear and sound decision. So I invite anybody to come to Unincluded when we have our trainings for our adults, because it's very simple. It's some things that, mom and grandma, some of them actually used it, and we didn't have a title for it, but it really works to help the brain move from one state to the other.
Interesting with that, the host of our television show at our Youth Chat is Miss Janae. And one of the things that I've noticed about Janae over the course of the year has been a drastic change in Janae, and that's the reason why we kind of lobbied for her to be one of our hosts. But you have a program that you produce leaders. Can you explain to me, how do you train these young people to be leaders?
So number one key for me is to teach them what I have learned now in college and my life as an adult. I am teaching them what I know now. Why wait? Let them know what it means to be a leader. Let them know what's behind how we function. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest keys, is the hardest thing about building and growing a youth leadership group is time. You must take time and build relationships. This takes patience, because you're going to start with a very rough characteristic. You're going to start with rough personalities. But what you do is, when you invest time and they understand that you care, you can teach them everything you know. And so that's what I've done with our leadership at the Unincluded. We actually started at St. James United Methodist Church. This was my group, my youth group. And we have spent so much time together that they trust me now. You guys have heard, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And so that's the key. You must take time with these youth and help them understand that you believe in them and that you're going to be there even when times get hard.
One thing that you cannot take away from a child is that beautiful smile.
Yes.
There was a lot of beautiful faces that was smiling at that event last night. Even some of the Globetrotters that met with Janae, they talked to me and said, that is a very happy young lady.
Yes.
And so you guys are doing some phenomenal work. How do you, as a leader, and Mr. Hawk and Danielle and all of you guys combined together, how do you identify a lack of self-efficiency and lack of purpose in our youth? And how do we remedy what's missing, what's lacking in our youth? How do you make our youth whole again?
The biggest thing is conversation. One thing we're missing with our institutionalized education is it's so regimented, and they're moving kids through it, and the purpose is to check off these teats and check off these goals, but we're missing the child. What we have been able to do is just take time and conversate with our kids, and we are invoking that thought. I ask our kids in the Jewels program, it's our girls program, what is your purpose? And so that is our focus for the next 3 months. What is your what is your purpose? I ask them, walk around, ask God, look and see, look around you. What is it you're interested in? If they can learn their purpose and we can strengthen what that is and empower them in their purpose, the world is at their hands.
Wow, Dora, if you was to sum up the word cultivating, how would you sum up the word cultivating, and how would you sum up how the Unincluded is cultivating these young minds within the Bell County area?
To sum up the word cultivating is to say, We are growing love with compassion, patience, and understanding. Just grow the love, and we're good.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have not missed anything. This is Rodney Duckett filling in for the great Phyllis Jones today, off on assignment. This is KISS 103.1 Community Connection. You have just now heard it from Dory Collins. She is the president of the Unincluded organization, and she will be back at the end portion of this show as we have a little open mic series that we're going to do about different questions that I have from people from the community. But next up, we have a wonderful young lady that I met approximately 2.5 years ago. This woman is full of energy and motivational and inspirational type of person. Every time I'm around her, I cannot help but to have a big, gigantic, humongous smile on my face. She is the founder of Let's Dream Big. And she is actually helping me do a lot of different stuff, like working with my curriculum and different stuff in the detention center. She's a phenomenal person. And I'd like to bring to the microphone right now Miss Danielle Ryder.
Hi, Mr. Duckett. Hello, listening audience.
Hey, could you tell us a little bit about your organization, Let's Dream Big?
My organization, Let's Dream Big, Youth Programming, Research, Development, and Consulting, very long title, which pretty much means I encompass everything that a child needs to learn, to grow, to move forward in their life and be positive, productive leaders and citizens of the world. I take all my programming that I have, which include life skills, character development, conflict resolution, STEM classes, and I take them to different organizations and facilities that house and take care of youth and share the love to help them be the best that they can be.
You know, I've worked with you here over the last couple of years, and you're helping me do some things on the side. You are a very proficient a person, and you're a wonderful advocate for what you're doing. Your STEM program is phenomenal, what you're doing with the Unincluded. If you have not seen what they do, the STEM program, go to either Dory Collins or Danielle Ryder's Facebook page and see the wonderful stuff that they're actually doing with the actual STEM projects that they have with the Unincluded Club. So, I have something that I want to lay on you. How do we guide our youth into recognizing that at an early age that it's okay to be true to themselves as it regards to peer pressure and social acceptance?
Well, the first thing is accepting the children that everyone is an individual. If you're not being yourself, then you're being a copy and you cannot be your best. And so to do that, you have to, like Dory said earlier, you have to listen to what they are saying to you. Ask open-ended questions of them. Pay attention to the little intricate details of the things that they do in life. So if they're sitting down coloring and you find them coloring, every time you look up, they're picking up a piece of paper and they're doodling, then you need to say, hey, looks like you're a wonderful artist. Would you like to learn more about art? Would you like to take a couple of classes maybe? And if they say yes, you get them into the nearest program as soon as possible until they tire of that. And if they don't tire of that, then that means that they are growing and they're able to accept themselves. Basically, what would be harmful to the children is if you say, hey, give me that coloring book, you're not allowed to color. Give me this piece of paper, you're not allowed to do it. They'll look around and they'll think, why am I not allowed to do it? They say, because your friends over there, they're out there playing basketball. They're out there playing football. You need to get out there and play football. My son, he's a scientist, and I think it's okay for him to build his Legos and tear apart every toy that I bring him and turn it into something different. But others would say, that's a big boy. He's almost bigger than you. He needs to be outside playing football. He'd prefer not. And that's okay. And I have to let him know that you are accepted as you are, son, because everyone has their own individual gift and talent, and that is yours. And it is okay to be different, unique, and an individual.
You know, I love that. A short story, about a year ago, I was at Family Dollar getting some supplies, and I'd seen a young father, and he had his son with him. And as they were walking to the cash register, the young boy grabbed a little book, I think it was Curious George book. And the father took the book out of his hand and put the ball in his hand. And the little boy cried because he wanted the book. But the father still bought the ball anyhow. So me being who I am, I'm just nosy. I went on and bought the book, and I ran up to the father, and I called up with the father, and I said, hey, I just want to buy this book for your son because he really wanted it, and we need to have more, young scholars that's out there. The father looked kind of puzzled. I think he wanted to go off on me, but something kind of happened. He says, the reason why I really did buy that book, he says, because I have problems reading. So we begin to converse a little bit more about that. So it's interesting that you say that. You can't take away wonderful things from your kids, that creativity aspect from your kids. So you deal with something called the fishbowl. So what is the importance of erasing the fishbowl in the mentality and showing our youth the endless possibilities the world holds?
The fishbowl idea is the fishbowl mentality. I'm sure many people have heard of it. If you haven't, I learned about the fishbowl mentality after I escaped East Oakland, California, which is where I'm from. I grew up there until I was 21 years of age. Everyone around me, it was generations of my family that grew up in East Oakland, and I'm not saying East Oakland, a wonderful place. I love my home, and it's where I call home. However, they never knew the outside world was bigger and it had a lot more to offer. Growing up in East Oakland, my mother, she, what they say, cultivated me to make sure that I had greatness inside of me, and I knew that there was more to the world than just my neighborhood, just people getting shot, just people having babies at an early age, being involved in gangs. I used to travel to Alaska in the summertime. She took a group bus from East Oakland, California, to a place called Mount Genesis, which was a camp to take us to the mountaintop to see that the trees that were bigger than us got below us. That means that we can overcome any obstacle. We are the greatest in the world. So the fishbowl mentality means to get out of that fishbowl. You're not a goldfish. You are a shark. You are a great whale. And you can't live in a fishbowl. The world is your oyster. It is an ocean. And that is where you are designed to be. You're not designed to be put into a box. Greatness cannot be held in a box. Eagles cannot soar in a box. You have to be outside that box to be yourself. And for anyone that's holding your child in a fishbowl, you are greatly devaluing the priceless, precious jewel that God has put inside of them to make them who they are. They say the graveyard holds purpose, possibilities, dreams. That's where all of those are lying. That's not where they belong. They belong free. They belong in the world and not in the fishbowl, in the ocean. That's the fishbowl.
That's Danielle Wright. Like I told you, she is a great inspirational, motivational speaker. She's a great coach. I lean on her a lot for a lot of things that I go through. It's wonderful. I really enjoy what you said. How do we help a child explore and develop their gifts and talents? That's the one thing. A lot of times I run into children and I can prophesize about their gifts and talents that they have, but a lot of parents may not look at those as gifts and talents. They may look at things like, well, you can't make any money off of doing that. So how do we as adults and as teachers and as educators and pastors and so forth and so on, how do we explore those endless possibilities of those untapped gifts and talents?
It's exposure. It's like what we did last night. Some kids have never been into a stadium before. You take them outside of the fishbowl. You take them to see different avenues and aspects of life. You can take them to the theater. They may not want to see it, but at least they see it and they know it, and you never know. I remember Mr. Duckett telling a story about, I don't know if it was a Black History event or something that he was at, and they had some drummers that were there. And he said there was a little boy in the audience, and he couldn't sit still. And he started dancing and shaking, like moving around, and like, what was wrong with you? And he said, I don't know, Mr. Ducky. When I heard the music, I just couldn't sit still. And I know you referred to it as tapping into some ancestors that were inside of him. So on the inside of our youth, God has put ancestors inside of them. You don't know what's inside of these kids until you expose them. If that little boy never heard the drums, the little boy never would have known that he had something inside of him that he could relate to. I would love to do a follow-up about that little boy and see what he's doing now, because he's probably at home banging on pots and pans.
I bet you he is. I bet he actually is.
So it's exposure, Mr. Duckett. To have kids find out their endless possibilities, you just have to show them that the world is open to them, and you have to guide them, and not just like you were telling the story about the guy with the book taking it away from his son. Don't take your limits and your fears and the things that have held you back over life, or the things that you're saddened by, and put those on your children, because they don't deserve that. Our children are here to be better than us. We're here to make them excel past our fears, past our things that we never accomplished, past our dead dreams. And once you allow your child to dream, once you allow your child to reach out and try things, you follow suit, because children are now our teachers.
I like what you said about the after school and out of school experience is very vital to the child. Can you explain that?
Oh my goodness. So I've been in the child development field since my son Malachi was 6 months old. I just popped into it, and it was one of my mom is where I got it from. But however, the out of school experience, what I've learned is kids spend so much time at school, so much time not learning, but learning to test is what they've been learning to do, learning to pass standardized tests that don't fit their learning style. So most kids like to write. Most kids are hands-on, kinetic learners. If parents and teachers aren't teaching them that way, they're not going to be able to cultivate their greatness. The out-of-school experience is where they can become their best selves. It's where they can do STEM activities. It's where they can learn that they're great at being fit or learn that they're great at being writers. And that's where we just need to tap into individuality instead of like the standardized teaching that they're doing in school, out of school time.
Once again, do not adjust your dials. My name is Rodney Duggan. I'm filling in for the great Phyllis Jones at KISS 103.1 Community Connections. Thank you, Ms. Danielle Ryder. I have you come back because we have some more interesting stuff to talk to you about. Next up, I have a young man that I met. Actually, he got in contact with me about 1.5 years ago, and he said, "Hey, man, I need your assistance with the Alpha Fraternity. We got some things going on, and I heard that you're a man that like to put things together." So I met this young brother, and since then we've been gelling. He's been one of our main mentors at the juvenile detention with the youth. He's done so much with the youth. I mean, I got so many stories. He's a humble guy, and he hates for me to tell the stories and put him on the spot, but he's a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I'd like to bring to you guys in the studio right now Mr. Curtis Hall.
Hello, greetings everyone, Mr. Duckett, Mr. McGee, the 103 family. Thank you for having me. It's a humble pleasure to be here, and I'm ready to dive into it. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity to share and participate, sir.
Mr. Curtis Hall, man, he's from North Philly. He's a Philly guy, and I like him because he brings that Philly swagger to him wherever he goes. But he has, he writes some very good, interesting questions. So if you are getting dressed right now, getting ready to go to work or getting ready to go to church, take a moment right now and don't trip over what I'm about ready to say, because these are some interesting questions, and it actually deals with us as African-American young men. So how do we address the psychological emasculation of our young boys and men?
Well, first of all, I believe we had to look at the problem in the backdrop. I'm going to make this brief because I know for sake of time, but however, if anyone's familiar with the Willie Lynch story, the letter, you talk about the breaking of the slave. So it was a psychological breaking where they would rape our women in front of their black husbands, as well as torment, basically making our men totally dependent on them and stripping them of their respect, honor, and dignity. So you got that type of psychological posture that's been ingratiated into our canyons over years. So you fast forward to now, and whether it's fashion, media coverage, you constantly got things espousing men doing feminine things, engaging in feminine-like behavior, whether it's wearing skinny jeans or makeup. That's not masculine. We have to be conscious and guard our masculinity. So you got to understand the components that go into it to try to break that. So what that translates to most definitely is a cornerstone where our relationship with the black woman. So unfortunately, we have this propagation when women, because of all this that has transpired, we're not even perceived the same by our counterpart, our sisters, as we once were. So we have to get that love from them as well as build back up our young men by teaching how chivalry, first of all, respect, dignity, and that you can have your emotions, but it's a masculine way to present that, because the divine order is man and woman. I'm not a basher. I'm not anything negative, but let's speak it as it is. If it doesn't produce and procreate, it's not natural. So we got to get them back to knowing, hey, I'm a man, and restore your rightful place.
It's funny. There was a Facebook post a while back. They had a picture of Allen Iverson next to Russell Westbrook. And Allen Iverson had the traditional Philly look about him, big pants, big shirt, big jacket. And then Russell Westbrook had on these tight colors and skinny jeans and stuff like that. So it's interesting that you bring that up. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that into light, because, Allen Iverson was ridiculed because he was a rebel, but he was being true to himself. Now, I have nothing against Russell Westbrook athletic ability, so I'm not done with his persona. But the outfit, yes, it does not speak total masculinity. You had capri pants, shoes with no socks, and shiny shoes. It didn't move. I don't know if I like somebody like that coming up to take my daughter somewhere. So I'd be kind of reluctant. But the point of sharing that is the message that's going across. And to capitalize on that, I like what Cam Newton did. He stood up and owned his identity, you know, as a black quarterback, and realized and called it for what it is. People are scared of his success. And it shouldn't be like that. Now, I know that's kind of off into another something that's tangential to what's going on, but it's kind of the same substratum. It's that psychological posture where it's the defamation and dehumanization of black men.
Wow, powerful, powerful. Hey, you know, what are the components of a healthy relationship with the parents and the teachers? A lot of times when you're in the school system, you know there's a big gap between communication with the teachers and the parents. Can you give me some insight on that?
Well, I see this as a dichotomy that must be intertwined. On the teacher's part, they got to present the opportunity, the platform for open interactive dialogue with parents and or guardians. So when you got registration, when open house events, you need to make sure you present an opportunity. Then it's incumbent on the person who's taking care of that child or those children to be receptive to that, because one can't do one total job for the other. And so just like a marriage, you can't do it all by yourself. It takes two. So when you're talking opening at the beginning of the fall, give them the detailed account of what's going to transpire through the year and maintain that dialogue, and most definitely use technology. And then parents, I just use myself as if not to pat ourselves on the back, but we correspond with our teachers, our daughter's teachers. What's going on? What's this week coming up? How can we? What projects can we do with them? Like we just did the Black History. President Obama, we worked with Journey on that, and all the kids did a wonderful job in her class. And now it's a mural up in Timber Ridge. So we know that's part of what it takes in this constant work, just like a marriage.
You know, it's interesting. What if you have that parent that has that certain stigma that she can't get over, where if she feels that if she sits down with the teacher or she sits down with the counselor, that she's not going to be taken seriously, or because she doesn't have the education to sit down and actually talk with that parent, it causes conflict to the point where they actually avoid going to school. What advice would you give that parent?
I would give that parent, first of all, to be sure in their self-confidence of knowing their child. And I'm going to strip this down now. If that parent has to be somebody that removes themselves, not interactive, then we got a whole other issue we need to address. But assuming that they're tied into the child, you walk in with that sure confidence because you know what your child is capable of, and you know what he or she needs. In terms of being communicated to, because there's different learning styles, and I know that segues into something else. But yeah, I will implore them and endorse them, go forward. And if they don't get what they need at one level, take it higher. And I think that's what we need to do.
You know, for myself, and this may have happened to you before, I've been asked a lot by single mothers to go in as a representation of a male figure with them, because sometimes they feel that the response is different. How do you feel about that?
I'm kind of mixed on that. I understand because of where we are culturally, especially within the African American community. Our sisters have had to shoulder that burden, and in a way, I kind of believe that goes back to emasculation, because our women been put in the forefront and we've been in the background. So we have to do, but we have to transition at some point to get that masculine representation is what it is. Because truth is, nothing against the sisters. I was raised by my mother and grandmother, but you can't substitute a man for a woman and vice versa. It's just a different element in and of itself. And I think anybody, especially like me who didn't grow up with that influence, can, that resonates with that.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome. So right now we're going to cut to a break and we'll be back. Remember, you are not listening to a mistake. I'm Rodney Dudley filling in for the great Phyllis Jones at KISS 103.1. We'll be back after this short break.
Think fast. Are you energetic, motivated, ambitious, and opinionated? Do you have what it takes to help your peer group discover the art of success? Well, FIU Chat is looking for you. Come be a part of the Chatter Crew production team by helping us bring back positive TV. If interested and under the age of 18 with your parents' approval, please go to impactoutreach.org, click media, release form print, and get your parent or legal guardian to sign. Upload your form and send your form to impactiuchat@gmail.com or mail to Impact Outreach P.O. Box 1857, Temple, Texas 76503. Our production team will contact for your audition time. Please ensure we have valid contact information such as email and phone number.
I am back. Community Connections. You did not have a problem. This is Rodney Duckett. Rodney Duckett is filling in for Phyllis Jones off on assignment. And we're back in the studio. We have a very interesting guest at this time. We've had a bunch of adults. Now we're going to turn it over to a 13-year-old child. I have Miss Jordan in our studio. Miss Jordan is a wonderful young lady. She's been one of our hosts and co-hosts on the NIU Chat Show on PBS, and she's in studio right now. Miss Jordan, tell the audience a little bit about who Miss Jordan is.
Well, I'm Jordan, and I'm involved in a lot of things. I act, sing, I write music, I'm an artist. I do a lot, and yeah, it's fun. I'm really doing my thing.
Awesome. You know, and I know you do a lot outside of this county and inside of this county, but your parents have been very, very supportive with everything that you do. You know, why is it so important that parents be supportive and support their children?
I think it's important to have supportive parents because to have people who are okay with you expressing yourself and your different artistry are different, just the way you are, because I feel like every person, every child of my age, they have dreams and aspirations, and to have people that back you up and are willing to take you to practices and just pay for, lessons, it's amazing to have people who really care about you and want you to do great and do something that you love and don't have a desire for you, but you have a desire for yourself that they're backing you up for.
See, you're a very unique young lady, and you're unique in the aspect because you already know what it is that you want to do at the age of 13. You want to act, you want to sing, you want to be in the spotlight, but there's also a different side of you too. You're very caring, and you love the environment that you're in, and it has a lot to do with your upbringing because I know your mother and father and how they have cultivated you and to make you grow up. What would you say to your mother and father? What words of encouragement would you give them to keep promoting this supportive environment that you have?
I would say just keep doing what you're doing because the way you guys raised me, you're doing something right. Like, I'm on a good path, and I feel like the person I am is because of you guys. So just thank you guys for being there for me.
I appreciate that humble and honest response. So, knowing how hard it is in today's world, what goes through your mind when you let a child walk out of the door? What goes through your mind? What goes through your parents' mind when you walk out of the door?
When I walk out the door, I think of three things. Three aspects is you're representing your parents, you're representing yourself, and you want to give a good. You want people to have a good perception of who you are. So. Pretty much, when I walk out the door, I think of the three things, and when I walk out, I carry myself well. I know it's like you have. It's two sides of every person. You have yourself when you're at home, when you're just chilling and just being yourself, and then you have yourself when you're outside of home, when you need to be a little more proper in the way you talk, because you want people to perceive you as a good person. You're not just a person just walking out here not really knowing what to do. So I try to think of just being ladylike, funny, be myself, and just know myself. And that's why I think to walk out the door, you have to really know yourself and know what your goals are, because if you walk out not knowing anything, anybody can go over on you. So you have to be you have to be strong to walk out the door by yourself and go to middle school.
I like that. One of the topics that I talk about is called repping your surname. Your surname is your last name. And a lot of times young boys like to rep certain people on the street because they think it's, very profitable or very, very nice to rep somebody on the street, but repping that surname, your last name. So when you step out, you represent your family, you represent that last name, and I like that about you. You're a young lady that knows obviously where she's going, and you know the direction that you're trying to take to get there. But there's also something unique about you. You have a little leadership going on at home, and you are a big sister. And what does it feel like being a big sister?
Well, first, to be a bigger sibling, I have to show my sibling you have to know yourself. Like everything I just said, I try to show that when I'm up studying, even though I don't want to, I would rather be watching TV or eating something, but I decided to sit down and really go over the work and to and because I have big aspirations, I want to do so many things, and I want my little brother to go big in the world and just go with a big boom. So I tried to show him that you can be yourself, and you have yourself at home, and you have yourself outside, but you need to know how to not change yourself, but know who you're surrounded by, your surrounding, and to be just, because he's going to be a man soon. I'm just like, hey, I need you to just, I want you to be an amazing person. So, and he has big dreams, so I'm trying to teach him that, you can't play all the time. It's time for work and it's time for play, and when it's time to work, you need to work. So
in a way, you're an extension of your mother and father to your actual brother itself. And the topic today is, how do we cultivate a child in today's society? And we're hearing it right now from a young lady that is actually facilitating her family by helping cultivate that young man that's in the house. So with everything that you have going on in school, and I know it's a byproduct of your parents pushing you to the greatness that you are, how do you maintain your sanity?
Okay. So it's times where I break down. 'Cause I go to my parents, I'm like, people expect great things from me, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's like a lot going on with me going to school and doing my extracurriculum. And then another thing, I'm trying to be a doctor as well, so trying to do all that too is kind of like I want to do arts, and now I want to go to the medical field. That's a lot to do, so I try to keep up the grades, because if you're not good with education, it's not good. It's not good to not have the education to go out, because in this time you need to have education. So with me, I tried to focus on that the most. But at the same time, I still focus again on the things I love to do too. I think it's just a good balance. I think you just need to have good balance. I feel like I maintain the good balance of stuff.
Right now, some parent has just now brought their child in to listen to this conversation. And what advice would you give that child that parent brought them in and say, listen to this young lady talk? What advice would you give them?
I would give them to first respect and know yourself. You need to know who you are. Everything, my mom always says, everything you do now affects your future. So you need to know what you're doing now, so in the future you can go out the world and do great big things. Then you just need to be yourself. I feel like some people always try to act like they're not who they are, and if you're a goofy crazy person, be a goofy crazy person, but still carry yourself well. And I feel like you need to know the main thing of just being a person. I feel like in this world, you need to know yourself, and if you know yourself, you can go so far. You can go to the stars if you wanted to.
Awesome. You have heard divine wisdom from a 13-year-old. She is twilight years beyond most of us in this room. I mean, she is definitely what we call the future. You do not adjust your dial. I am filling in for Phyllis Jones at Community Connection. And why is STEM so important? I know it's a complicated combination type question, but why is STEM so important?
STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. When you think of all those words, all you think about is the future. I read an article online, and I won't misquote the percentage, but they said by the year 2020, most jobs are going to be taken over by robots. Okay? The next quote that is in conjunction with that is program or be programmed. So we don't teach our children how to program in 2020 when these robots are running everything. What are they going to be doing? They're not going to have a job. They're not going to have an outlet. They're not going to be able to be as successful as they would want to be. So science, technology, engineering, and math, learning how to have fun and enjoy those aspects is helping them to lead the future. But the children that need it most right now are like children that are on the Lower East Side of Temple, children that are on the other side of Killeen that aren't receiving the technology that they need to learn how to program. But they can go sit in front of an Xbox and play 4 hours a day. I beat a game in 20 minutes. My son would say to me, how did you beat a game in 20 minutes, son? Can you show me how to make a game, son? If I put you in front of a computer.
Exactly.
Relevant technology is what our kids need to keep up with the pace of the future.
So Dory and Curtis, you guys, you're unincluded president. Your children are unincluded. Talk to me from a president perspective of what Danielle's bringing to your organization, and then you talk to me from a parent's perspective of what you're seeing, how your children are developed from that STEM program.
So my focus is, like Danielle said, is for our kids to be the programmers instead of being programmed. We have some of the most creative kids in our program, and they just do not have access to the resource and knowledge to be able to show that creativity. And so that is our focus for the next year, is to bring in resources and people who can provide that education and knowledge so that they can go out and create their own world.
From a parental perspective, we see both Kendall and Journey taking a liking to science and technology, whether it's in the form of educational, when you're talking about cognitive challenges, or just in terms of leisure. And I think in the offspring, the future, I think it's going to definitely impact what they decide to do in terms of advanced education. It's something my wife's a big proponent of. I know my wife's a school counselor as well. I know she's supposed to be giving this right here as well to get some things integrated into KISD curriculum overall because of what she just highlighted, her synopsis of where we're going in the near future.
So right behind us, we have a young lady by the name of Jordan, and she's desiring to be a doctor, and I know she's heavily into STEM. What advice would you give that young child, which she's very wise at that, what advice would you give that young child to actually help her move forward in her career as being a doctor?
Well, the resources that I would go to, if you're asking that question, they do the things where you go with the doctor. I don't know what this is called.
Shadowing?
You shadowing, yes, thank you. You shadow a doctor, which I think you should full advantage of that, which I'm doing. And then I think you should always set yourself up to be not the lead, but ahead of the pack, which going to the career center we have here, which you can do medical things, which I'm totally taking advantage of that, and just really knowing science and math and really working hard. And I think if you take advantage of those advantages, you will be great.
Go ahead, Dory.
And if you hear the confidence in Jordan's voice, that is our focus, is to give the children the exposure, because the only thing that we are fear of are the things that we don't know. And so if we can give our kids the exposure to the things that they don't know, then the future is theirs.
I totally agree with you. And one of the things that we're talking about STEM, and STEM is very important. I'm in the medical field myself. But let's talk about business, for instance, because we need to have trade, we need to have imports and exports coming in, and no better person than this brother that's going out for his MBA right now, Mr. Curtis Hall. So let's talk about how do we galvanize our youth to have a sense of urgency regarding the future of both micro and macro perspectives.
So I think we have to connect with our youth and show them how it impacts them, i.e. look at the tags on the clothes that they're wearing, the commercials that they gravitate towards. One of the most successful marketing campaigns, anybody familiar with the State Farm, with Chris Paul and Cliff Paul assists, that stuff stuck. And it's put State Farm to a 50% increase in revenue in terms of clients. So you find what your passion is, you tie into that, then you correlate it to what your interests are and how does that fit, because it's always a niche in the market. Wherever there's need, there's demand, and not only does marketing meet our needs, but you can create them as well, i.e. the cell phone. And you can, at one time you can only get internet through dial-up and all this scratch, but now you can practically get it everywhere because people are taking advantage of those market gaps. So make it personable and make it fit your passion, and that right there will feed their drive, because they'll see how it directly relates to them, and they'll see a little moolah at the end of the road too, which they hurt.
And even though Jordan is going to be a doctor, she still has a passion and desire to be an actor and a singer. What advice would you give Jordan about branding and marketing, because that's your forte?
You may hit me this morning, Lord have mercy. But I would tell this beautiful young lady, continue, first of all, do what you're doing. I'm so proud. I know your parents are especially proud and elated. But carve yourself out. Make sure own your brand and control it. Nobody dictates it. You dictate it, whether it's you know what you want to stand for, you know what you want to exude, you know what you want to portray and draw to you. Because it's important that you keep fostering a healthy environment, and your brand does all that. So make sure you translate those demands and know your worth, and they'll have to concede to you because you bring a lot to the table. So that's what LeBron does, that's what Steve Stout does, that's what Kevin Lyons does, that's what Russell Simmons does, that's what Oprah does. So stick with that formula.
And see, Jordan, you're talking to a guy from North Philly, and there's been a lot of successful people to come out of North Philly. Number one, you probably think of North Philly, you think of Bill Cosby, you think of Will Smith. We also have the hip hop game. You have Freeway. You got several different people that come out of North Philly, and this brother's probably broken bread with some of the brothers that I've talked about. Dr. Umar Johnson, North Philly. He went to school with Dr. Umar Johnson. So again, he's speaking that knowledge. So since we're on that right now, how do we successfully aid our youth to discover their passions and channel it accordingly to reach the optimum level of performance like Jordan?
Well, I think for you, some of what I just was, blessed to share, but also a lot of our youth are not per se college bound. So there's still a lot of technical jobs out there that need to be filled as well. So thinking about that, I think high schools are looking at right now going into a vocational setting, because when you got well-designed programs and you can get actually apparatus and metrics to see where kids' focuses are and what their interests are, you can feed that. So I think that's one thing we have to do is restructure basically programs across high schools all across America, so kids that can discover their gifts and talents, not just have an ACT or SAT, but actually have geared tests and assessment to help folks, kids, to discover their desires.
That's an interesting topic, because I'm looking at Miss Dory Collins, but she's not really a former teacher because she's teaching in a different capacity now. What he's saying, how are you applying that right now in the unincluded organization?
So like I said earlier, it first of all is through conversation and relationship, finding out what their purpose is, finding out what they're passionate about, and then going out and getting the resources to empower them. That's it. If we can tap into what they naturally love, we don't have to fight them. A lot of times in the school systems, that's what they're doing. They're fighting because they're feeding them this knowledge that is not necessary and they can't use it. And so what we're doing is we're fostering their love for what they naturally have.
So amongst us, we have 3 adults, we have 1 child, and the adult that I'm going to ask is a curriculum writer. So a lot of times, and I've made this mistake myself, just pushing forward because I think I have all the answers, but a lot of stuff is not on paper and I can't assess myself. How important is it to have a curriculum that guides and directs a child to the destiny he was designed to have?
Curriculum is so important. However, it's not just curriculum, it's the type of curriculum that you present. Me and Dory have had these conversations many a times that in the educational field, people will go buy these $1,000 curriculums, big binders full of just information that you drop it on the desk of a teacher and say, here you go, this is the curriculum we need the children to follow. However, the curriculum doesn't tap into this teacher's learning style. The teacher's going to take what you can from it and going to try to present it to a classroom full of kids that have several different learning styles, and it's just not going to work. So when you design curriculum, you have to take it from the child's perspective, and then you teach on their level. It's like Legos. I talk about Legos a lot because they are the building blocks and they represent how you build towards the future. You have to start with basic knowledge, basic foundation, basic love and understanding that kids have, and you build from that. So it's important to take the kids into perspective while you're designing curriculum. Don't just take your ideas and throw it at them because they're not going to catch the ball.
So Ms. Jordan, you are a soon-to-be doctor. I'm going to say that.
That's right.
You're a soon-to-be doctor. And one thing that I do know about you from your mother and father, you take an initiative. Sometimes you study to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're only in junior high school. Why do you do that?
Okay, so my school teachers, again, they teach differently, which for me, I have dyslexia, so the way I learn is really different from some of my students. So yes, I have to put forth more effort to get the grade, to get an A or a B on something. So with my dyslexia, and the reason why I study, and some people say I overstudy or I need to learn how to be more of a child. This is my child. I want to do my best, and I want to, because I have big desires. I'm okay with not going to a friend's house or hanging out with friends to study, because that's what's more important. And I feel like with me in junior high studying to 1, 2, 3 in the morning, I feel like, yes, I'm tired at school some days, but when I get that A on the test, I'm like, yes, I studied that long to get the A, and then I'm saying what? So I was like, I did so. That's right.
That's the beauty behind it. Now, see, most of us in this room right here is pushing 40 or right over 40, like myself, and to listen to this young lady saying that she wants to be a doctor and she studies till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna let you know one thing: you can cut on me anytime that I'm sick. Okay?
That's
All right. You can prescribe anything that you want to prescribe to me because I know you're putting in the work that's necessary to be a phenomenal doctor.
Yes.
And with that being said, I wish you great blessings upon
Yes,
that with everything that you're doing. This has been a phenomenal show. And as we get to the close of this show, Community Connections, it is. I'm filling in for Phyllis Jones. I'm not as perfect as she is, but I'm filling in for Phyllis Jones. She's out on assignment.
Please instill in your child that they can do it. Teach them how to have endurance. Show them how to have endurance. And help them to love, please hear this, love the process, even when it's hard.
Please teach your children to dream big, dare to dream, reach for success, excel at all endeavors, achieve your goals, and manifest your destiny. Show the world your greatness. Teach them that.
I would just humbly submit, keep your eye on the vision, because if you take your eye off the vision, that's only when you see obstacles.
And for the youth back there, what would you tell a parent and a child that's listening to this?
I would say biggest thing for me is know yourself and know your just know who you are, know your person, know that you can reach any high if you want to.
This has been a phenomenal show, and I love quotes, and one of the quotes I love is by the great W.B. Du Bois. If facts are known, then reasonable change can occur. The facts are all around us. It's up to us how we respond to the changes. And today, you've heard nothing but facts from experts in your community. And if you want to know more about these experts in your community, you can go to Unincluded on Facebook, Dory Collins, that's D-O-R-E-E, Collins, and you have some more information?
At Unincluded Club on Facebook, you can find us.
At Let's Dream Big Consulting on Facebook, you can find me.
Curtis Everhart II on Facebook.
If facts are known, reasonable change can occur. Thank you guys for the facts. My name is Rodney Duncan. I'm with Impact Outreach, Intelligent Minds Proven and Applying Commitment. Also, you can check us out on @iYouth Chat, the chat that everybody needs to hear.
Yes.
It is a show on PBS, which Miss Jordan has been one of our co-hosts and hosts, and the youth run the show. We just kind of point them in the right direction. So, signing off for Miss Phyllis Jones, you cannot live a positive life with a negative mindset. Thank you and great blessings.